All right, your television has no picture. So whether your TV doesn't have a picture or it has sound but no picture, basically any scenario in which your TV is not showing up, the screen is not showing up, there is a very simple fix for this. So I'm just going to jump right into this. This has happened to me a number of times. The first time it happened, I immediately assumed that there was a hardware issue. I'd have to take my TV apart, maybe I'd have to buy a new one. The fix almost always, in like 80 to 90% of cases, is almost always much simpler than that. It's called a soft reset. So basically, a soft reset just means turning your device off and then back on again without losing any of the data. And in this case, we're going to do a soft reset, but we're going to do something a little bit with a twist. So first, you're going to unplug your TV from the wall. So disconnect it from the outlet. And then while the TV is unplugged, you're going to find the power button on your TV. Now, it doesn't matter if you have a Samsung, Vizio, Sony, Hisense, etc. The power button is really in a handful of places typically, either in the center of your TV underneath the center at the bottom, or it's on the bottom left or right on the front bezels. Could be a touch power button, could be underneath as well, or it's on the back left or right of the TV up or down. That's like the most common locations. Can't imagine there's any other positions where a power button would be located. So find it on your TV and then press and hold it in for 15 seconds. After those 15 seconds are up, release the power button on the TV, wait 30 more seconds, and then just plug your TV back into the wall. That's going to work for most of you. I know it sounds silly, but what you're doing by unplugging it is you're turning it off. Then by holding the power button, you're actually draining the TV's capacitors of its excess power and electricity all the way down to do a proper soft reset of your television. You're waiting a little bit, and then you're plugging your TV back in. And in most cases, that's going to work. Your TV picture will come back on. That's what worked for me. There are a handful of other fixes you should try, though, if that didn't work. Next, check every connection. So I would just start by disconnecting everything from the back of your TV, wait for 30 seconds, and then reconnect it all. Make sure when you reconnect it that the connection is secure and snug, no loose connections. Do that and see if that works. If that didn't work, you should try connecting your external device to a different port on your TV. So if it's connected via HDMI, disconnect it from, say, HDMI 1, for instance, and try HDMI 2. And then make sure you change the input or source on your remote to the correct input and see if that works. It's very rare, but HDMI ports can fail for a number of reasons. And so you want to try a different port. Very simple and quick to do. Let's just eliminate that as a possibility. If that didn't help, look at all the cords and cables and just make sure nothing is frayed or damaged or kinked. Visual test the cords. And if you have one device that you're trying to use, like a cable box with an HDMI, if you have another HDMI cord lying around, just switch them out, swap out, try a new HDMI cord and see if that does it. And then the last thing to do with connections is just make sure that you're on the correct input or source channel. If I had $1 for every time this was the problem, I'd have like 25 bucks. But in most cases, people don't realize that actually their cable box is connected to, say, HDMI 2, but their TV channel is on the wrong input or source channel. Maybe it's on HDMI 1. And so it doesn't appear like the picture showing up, but you're on the wrong input. So grab your remote, hit the input or source button, and just toggle until you find the right channel. If your connections are not the issue, then I would try using a different external device altogether. So there's a likelihood that maybe the problem is not with your TV, it's actually with the device that you're trying to use. So disconnect that device and plug in a different device, or just try using the TV as it is and see if you're able to get a picture. If you are, it's likely the issue is actually with your device or the cable that your device is using, but this is just process of elimination, trying to figure out what is the cause. Unfortunately, if you've made it this far, it's probable that you have a hardware issue. Now, the hardware issues comes in variety shapes and sizes. And so there's a couple of tests you can do that you don't need to be technical for. And you don't typically need to take the TV apart even to do the diagnosis. So it's worth figuring out what probably is wrong with your TV. The first test involves shut all the lights off and then power your TV on. I know the TV picture isn't showing up, but just power it on as you normally would. And then look at the back of your television, see if you see any light coming through that vent. If your TV doesn't have a vent, if your model or brand doesn't have a vent on the back, then you may actually have to take off the back paneling, just remove all of the screws around the outer edge and remove the panel. It shouldn't be that complicated. And just see with the lights off, do you see any light coming through? And if you do, then that actually means that the backlight of your television is working. And in that case, you probably have a bad TCON board or main board, or the motherboard as it's called. So a TCON board or main board is probably broken. And those are just circuit boards on the back of your TV. So if you look at this diagram, a TV these days is made up of really three main components: your main board, your TCON board, and then your power supply board, and usually an LED driver. Those are most common these days. They're built directly into the power supply board. So you can see on this one, the LED strip power cable actually running out from the power supply board to the front of the TV that powers the LED strips. So that's the anatomy of a TV. And so in the first test, your backlights are working. The most likely the issue is with your TCON board or main board may need to be replaced. One thing to point out here as a hint is that if you do have sound when your TV stopped working, or you do still currently have sound but no picture, I would start by replacing the TCON board first, because that's almost always the issue when there is still sound. So you can start there instead of doing process of elimination and just guessing, is it the main board or the TCON board? All right, the next test. If you don't see any lights in the previous step, so you turned off the lights, the backlights are not working, that means your backlight's the issue. And in that case, I want you to once again turn the lights off, turn on the TV as you normally would, and then bring up the TV menu. So whether that's on your remote or on the TV itself, and then take a flashlight and shine it on the screen. You could use your phone flash as well. And you're going to want it like 6 or 12 inches from the screen, different angles, move it all around up against the TV screen. You're looking for a faint image of that TV menu. And you can see it here in this picture. If you do end up seeing an image, it's likely that your TCON board and your main board are actually fine, but your inverter or your LED driver are broken. And again, I mentioned that the inverter LED driver these days is most commonly built directly into the power supply board. And in that case, you just have to replace the whole power supply board. And so if we go back up here, you can see you'd have to replace this circuit board. And then one other thing worth noting here is that if you replace the power supply board and or the inverter LED driver, and it turns out that that actually wasn't the issue and your TV still isn't working, then most likely you have LED strips that need to be replaced. All it takes is 1 or 2 of these lights to be out for the whole strip to go bad. That's a pain in the butt. Unfortunately, it's more work. You have to take apart the front of the TV, take off some screens without breaking them. You're probably better off getting a new TV or getting a technician, depending on the cost. So, if you've made it this far, I would always, contact the TV support. If you have Vizio or Sony, reach out to their respective support teams and just say, what problem you're facing and see if there's anything they can do for you. In some cases, they may be able to help, or they may ask you for your warranty. A lot of the warranties these days only last about a year, but you never know. I think it's worth just checking these things, reach out to support, see if you have an active warranty before you go out and buy a new TV. So that's it. Again, most of you'll just fix your TV by unplugging it, holding the power button for 15 seconds, and then plugging it back in. I hope that was the fix for you. Let me know down in the comments below what worked or what didn't. And if you wouldn't mind subscribing to the channel, that helps us a lot. So thanks a lot. Appreciate it.